I haven't done these in a damn while. Hey everybody, how's it going? Cameron Diamond here, and welcome to the Wrestling Podcast. We haven't done one of these in a while, so I thought I'd go ahead and do them. You probably don't hear in the background, but the Wolf has joined us in our little thing. You can say hello to the audience, John.
Hello.
He'll be quiet for a little while because he did just get off work and he's a little sleepy. But anyways, today's wrestling podcast, we're gonna be talking a lot about maybe a few little subjects. The best Dusty Road stories. You'll like to hear the stories of the American Dream. And of course, because June of 2019 is the 4 years since his passing. I know it's late, but better late than never. Yes, better late than ever, John. You heard me. This one should be interesting.
Well, I wasn't laughing at that. I just saw something funny.
Of course you would. Anyways, we got one that says how WCW should have booked Bret Hart. What Culture Wrestling actually did a video similar to this, but of course, I thought I'll take a shot at it, and we will take a shot at it and see how we would have booked Bret Hart in WCW. A big what if here is on our final topic. What if Ric Flair came to the WWE during the Attitude Era? Now, of course, I'm going to start off with this one with, this one I haven't written down, but I want to go ahead and talk about it. The King of the Ring tournament. It came back just this year, and we really got the best of Raw, the best of SmackDown going at it. We're actually in the quarterfinals right now between the Raw stars and the SmackDown stars. But, very interestingly enough, I have a guest that I will segue here. He's older than Dirt, but hey, he created Dirt, so what am I kidding? He has the detailed history of the King of the Ring tournaments from 1993 all the way to 2002 when it was its own pay-per-view before it became like kind of a brand exclusive thing where it only happens like once and then that's pretty much it. So ladies and gentlemen, like I said, he's older than Dirt, but he has created the Dirt, but he is the wisest of them all. Gramps, join in.
Yeah, hello.
I'm sorry if I had to say older than Dirt, but you created Dirt. That's how old he is.
Fine. That's fine.
All right.
Not just old as Dirt. He didn't create Dirt. He was there when the universe was when the universe was created.
What is the spirit you speak of?
that is
That
true.
wasn't around in my time. I predate Dirt.
All right, so Gramps, like I mentioned in the segue before I introduced you into the video, the King of the Ring tournament returned this year, and of course, like I said, the best of Raw and SmackDown are facing it off to see who is the King of the Ring. But you, my good sir, have the complete details, the detailings of King of the Ring's past from 1993 all the way to 2002. When it was its own pay-per-view before it became kind of like a brand exclusive type thing. So, Gramps, since you are since you got it all detailed as the historian that you are, how about I'll let you go ahead and have the floor. So, go ahead, Gramps.
I'll let y'all jump in occasionally a little bit.
Okay.
Well, the original King of the Ring ran from 85 to 91. And then when WWF started their big, like, annual things, in 93, King of the Ring was its own pay-per-view.
Right.
And it ran from 93 to 2002, where it was replaced by Bad Blood.
I actually remember that because I remember like it was like, I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, during like the 90s, during the Attitude Era, there was like parts where they did have King of the Ring, and then they would have like In Your House Bad Blood or something like that. But anyways, I'm just venting. But go ahead, continue.
Oh, that's fine. And then it returned as a SmackDown exclusive in 2006 after a 4-year hiatus.
That is true, and that's actually the same. That's actually the King of the Ring that Booker T won, and he became King Booker, and has that fake English accent. Jesus, Booker.
Alright.
All right,
let's start with
go ahead.
1993.
All
It
right.
was Bret the Hitman Hart beat Bam Bam Bigelow to win the King of the Ring. But here's a little piece of tidbit information. When Bret Hart was being coronated King of the Ring, he was attacked by Jerry the King Lawler.
I actually
And it
remember
started
that. Yeah.
2-year feud between them.
Yeah, because I believe it was the point because Jerry the King Lawler was feeling offended that he was the actual king of the ring, but he felt like you know, the name title, the namesake King of the Ring is dragged, and he's the actual King of the Ring or something like that. But I know they had like a bunch of feuds with each other, including if I'm not mistaken, they had a Kiss My Foot match.
Oh yeah, that was a couple years later, I think.
Yeah, like a few years later, yeah.
Alright. Now, here's the thing. After 93, the King of the Ring pay-per-view had the King of the Ring match, but it also had a main event match. So I got both covered pretty much.
Alrighty, we'll go right ahead.
In 94, the winner of the King of the Ring was Owen Hart, where he beat Tatanka, 1-2-3 Kid, and Razor Ramon. And Owen Hart, actually at that pay-per-view during the coronation, lambasted Bret Hart. And it started that feud between the two of them that led to different members of the Hart family picking sides.
Well, actually, Gramps, I'm sorry if I have to jump in real quick, but
Go ahead. What is it for?
Well, of course. But, no, actually, Owen Hart and Bret Hart actually had their feud started back in late 93, because I remembered, actually no, it was like around early 94, because if I remember correctly, they had, like, one of them was, I think it was Bret and Owen, and he teamed up with two other brothers. They had a tag team match, and it was the part where kind of like Bret hurt his knee or leg or something like that, and Owen was just like, he had enough of like being in Bret's shadow and then try to break out on his own. And then like later on, he did win King of the Ring. I actually did remember that.
Right.
And
well,
I remembered I did remember the lamb blasting that freaking Owen did on Bret. I remember that. And they actually had a pretty good rivalry, including a WWE Championship match inside of a steel cage at SummerSlam. But go ahead.
Well,
Gramps.
The main event for 94 to coincide with King of the Ring was Jerry the King Lawler versus Roddy Piper.
Really?
Yep, that was the main event for that year. At least that one.
Was it a normal one-on-ones match between Lawler and Piper?
It was for the title.
For
the World Championship.
You sure about that? Because
I don't have it in my notes, but I believe that's what it said.
Here, let me look it up real quick, because I think if we got 94, actually no, 94 Bret Hart was champion, because if I remember correctly, WrestleMania.
It could have been a regular match.
Yeah, it might have been the main. Yeah, maybe the main. Hold on. King.
Probably was no belt on the line, because it was the 94 pay-per-view, but it wasn't actually associated with the King of the Ring.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna look it up real quick because I am actually on it right now. King of the Ring, 1994. Hold on, I'm gonna look at the matches real quick. Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna look at the matches here.
Lawler versus Piper.
Yeah, no, this is Roddy Piper versus Jerry Lawler, but they didn't have a world title. Yeah, they had a regular match.
Okay.
Because if I remember correctly, Oh, actually, yeah, because I don't see Bret Hart in here. So Bret, I think Bret took the night off that day, and then yeah, the main event was Roddy Piper versus Jerry Lawler. Okay, but it wasn't for the title because I remembered Bret Hart being the champion. I remember that. But go ahead.
Well, the next one, 95. This is an interesting one. Because the 1995 Royal Rumble, or not Royal Rumble, 1995 King of the Ring pay-per-view is rated as one of the worst pay-per-views of all time. At least according to my sources. I didn't actually get their actual reason why, but if I look at some of these names, it's understandable. Because the King of the Ring, a guy named Mabel won, beating Savio Vega.
Actually, I believe Mabel became the future Viscera and Big Daddy V at the time.
Okay. Now, the main event for 1995 was Psycho Sid and Tatanka versus Diesel and Bam Bam Bigelow.
A tag team match main evented the King of the Ring pay-per-view. Well,
yeah,
I kind of see because I think it was like 90. I think it was like 95. Like 95 could have been like a bad year, really, for the wrestling business, basically. Because, I mean, yeah, 94 was the year of the steroid trial, but 95 they were still feeling the effects of it. So, but no, yeah, but no, 95, Mabel did win King of the Ring, and Mabel actually had the worst run as King of the Ring, including the failed WWE Championship match at SummerSlam, I think, then very next month or so. But go ahead.
96 was an interesting one. The 1996, Steve Austin beat Jake the Snake Roberts to be the King of the Ring. And during that big coronation thing is what gave rise to the Austin 316.
Hell yeah. Yep. The main talk about your songs, talk about John 316. Austin 316 says, I just whooped your ass. Always the best line ever I think the best slogan in history of the WWE, and it was, and no one knew what. The fans didn't know what they were going to be in for with Austin as King of the Ring, but after that famous line, I think fans were really starting to pay attention to Stone Cold. But
and the
anyway,
main event for '96 was for the WWF Championship. It was the British Bulldog versus Shawn Michaels, with Mr. Perfect officiating as the ref.
now that one I actually do remember that was happening, because I remember at the time, yeah, Mr. Perfect was guest referee and British Bulldog and Shawn Michaels were still in a rivalry kind of. Yeah, so yeah, I remember that one. And I believe Shawn actually still retained that title actually and never gave it to British, to Davey Boy.
Okay.
So,
see, I looked up who won the King of the Ring. I didn't look up who won the main event.
Well, yeah, because
one thing I didn't do.
That's
you would know.
Yeah, no, I kind of knew because I remember in my thinking that British Bulldog would never actually have the big gold belt or the WWE title because Shawn would never like work with anybody, because this was like Shawn pretty much when he was like a career politician or what, like the politician backstage, you know.
Mm-hmm. Now, 97 was also an interesting year. There's a man by the name of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, with the help of a lady named Chyna, beat Mankind to become the King of the Ring.
And actually,
and we all know who that is. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H.
Yep, Hunter Hearst Helmsley became Triple H, absolutely. And that's crazy too, because oh,
it's fine.
Oh, okay. I was just like, wait, someone's calling? Alright, but yeah, it's really interesting though, because Hunter Hearst Helmsley was actually at that time was still doing the Greenwich Blue Blood gimmick, and actually, believe me or not, I was actually going to mention it in the '96 one, but I want to go ahead and mention it now. Hunter Hearst Helmsley was supposed to win the '96 King of the Ring, not Austin.
Ooh.
But the reason why was because of the curtain call, which was the Madison Square Garden incident, where the main event was Diesel versus Shawn Michaels for the title instead of a steel cage, and then after the match they were hugging it out, and then it was Razor Ramon and then Hunter Hearst Helmsley came out. They started hugging it out, and then like both of them, all four of them were like out in the ring just taunting because it was Kevin Nash's and Scott Hall's last night in WWE before they went to WCW. And apparently somebody video recorded the entire thing, and Vince got mad and didn't punish Nash and Hall because they were leaving. He didn't punish Shawn because Shawn was WWE champion, so they punished Triple H.
Huh.
So yeah. So Triple H was supposed to win the '96 one, but didn't. So '97 he did end up winning that one. So
Okay. In the main event for '97, the WWF Championship was Farouk versus The Undertaker.
I would see actually. I think I did hear about something about that one with Farouk actually winning like a '1 contender sting and then actually going on to face Undertaker. But Undertaker did retain because I remember SummerSlam in '97 was Undertaker versus Bret Hart for the title, and Shawn was the guest referee at that match.
Alright. 98 was another interesting year. 1998, King of the Ring, a guy named Ken Shamrock beat by submission The Rock to become King of the Ring.
Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock.
I think a lot of people actually don't understand this, but Ken Shamrock was way ahead of his time.
He was a retired MMA fighter or something like that now. I could look him up.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of somebody in Impact Wrestling or TNA just recently called him out recently. But anyways,
Well, Ken Shamrock actually does his own thing now. If I remember correctly, is some sort of
like a bodyguard or something like that?
No, bare knuckle fighting. If I remember correctly.
Oh, that
Because my boss cousin participates in that, and his cousin's in there trying to work his way up to fight Ken Shamrock.
Really?
That'd be
Wow.
interesting.
Yep.
Oh, well, hey, there you go. More than you know, everybody. More than you know. But yeah, I think. But Ken Shamrock during '98 was too far ahead of his time. But Ken did have a pretty good career in WWE. But then when he went to NWA TNA, he won the NWA World Title, and it was like around 2001, 2002, and it was a night for him.
Right.
But you know.
Now, the '98 main event. There was a main event, and then something historical that happened also at the '98 main event of the King of the Ring. The main event for 1998's King of the Ring was Austin versus Kane in a first blood match for the WWF Championship.
Oh my God! Yep. Actually, yep. I actually remember this one because this was the historical event. I'm sorry to cut you off, Gramps, but the historical event that happened in '98 was Undertaker and Mankind, Hell in a Cell, and of course the first few moments they were fighting on top of the cell, and then
within 5 minutes,
and then and then the infamous toss from the cell to the announce table, and then the choke slam to the cell roof to the mat in the ring.
it was a 16-foot drop from the top of the cell to the Spanish announcer's table.
Always that infamous moment. And actually, And
It's
actually,
the most replayed moment
over and
in
over.
WWE history, according to the website. Most used piece of footage.
No, and for good reason. It's been one of the most recognizable things of all time. And actually, another historic thing, and I actually would say this. During Austin and Kane's match, and no one actually never talks about this, how Kane won the title. Mankind was coming out and was going to try to attack, I think, Austin, because I think Mankind and Kane were a team. Well, Undertaker came out and attacked Mankind, and then I think it was Austin and Undertaker like teaming up, and then all of a sudden Undertaker busts Austin wide open with a chair shot, and Austin didn't know he was, and no one knew that the referee was knocked out in that match during the time too, by the way, and when Austin was gonna go for the shot with I think it was one of the monitors. The referee saw it and Kane won. So Kane won his first title basically by help of Undertaker. So everyone, and yeah, but the King of the Ring '98 always a infamous night for pretty much everybody, including Ken Shamrock, Undertaker, and Kane, and Mankind and Stone Cold. But go on.
All right. Well, for '99, the King of the Ring, Billy Gunn beat X-Pac.
Oh my God! Now I actually wanted to say this now. Oh my God! When I think it was after Billy Gunn, The Rock, did a like a promo. It wasn't on the Raw or SmackDown or anything, but it was on Sunday Night Heat or something. But it was like during, I think it was like after, I think it was before SummerSlam or something like that. And then The Rock was like, he did a thing where Billy Gunn was talking to God, and he mocked, like going, God, my name is Billy, and I just want King of the Ring, but the problem is, everybody thinks that I absolutely suck. And then God will go, Bob, my name is Billy. It doesn't matter what your name is. Freaking Rock obliterated freaking Billy Gunn and never pushed Billy Gunn into the moon again. They tried to push Billy Gunn, but after The Rock's promo, that was it. It was all done. But what was the main event? What was the main event of the King of the Ring?
The main event for '99 was Vince and Shane versus Steve Austin in a ladder match to control the WWF.
I remember this because I remembered they, I believe it was around the time where this was around the corporate ministry angle where the higher power was revealed to be Vince to teach Austin a lesson, which we don't know what that lesson is, either than Vince McMahon is a madman. And then Linda and Stephanie actually gave their part of the company to Stone Cold, and Stone Cold became like the new COO for a time, and then Shawn Michaels, who was actually kayfabe commissioner at this time, still, did, okay, well, we're gonna have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus whoever in the corporate ministry, and the winner gets their stipulation forced upon in the at the King of the Ring, and that's what. And Stone Cold ended up beating the Big Boss Man at that time, and so it became a handicap match. So it was Vince and Shane versus Stone Cold, and I believe Vince and Shane won that one actually, because I watched the DVD of Stone Cold's matches on his DVD set. But anyways, go on.
Alright. Now the 2000 King of the Ring, Kurt Angle beat Rikishi.
Yep. And actually, Kurt was still really kind of young into his career, though. I mean, he debuted, he made a freaking impact on, like, he won the Intercontinental, European titles, he won King of the Ring, and then, like, later down the road, he would win the WWE titles, so... And it was a pretty good rookie year, really, for Kurt. I mean, he debuted, like, late 99. But now the main event.
It was Triple H, Vince, and Shane versus Rock, Kane, and Taker.
Really?
The McMahon Helmsley Group Corporation, over the hell they called themselves.
I think it was the McMahon Helmsley regime. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of remember that regime.
Alright. Now, for the 2001 King of the Ring, we have another person of the pairing. Edge beat Kurt Angle for the King of the Ring.
Yep. Edge actually, everybody was trying to push Edge, really, because Edge was always known as a tag team competitor, and they wanted to push him as a single star, which is, you know, I think that was what a lot of people, what WWE was going to do at the time, and they did the same thing with Christian, but then, you know, Edge became the ultimate babyface, and then Christian became the whiny, bitchy heel. So, but yeah, but the main event was
an interesting triple threat match between Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Now, a quick question: was this for the title?
No, it did not say it was for a title.
Wow. Well, actually, that would have been very interesting to take a look at, just seeing that match being a triple threat between Jericho, Benoit, and Austin. Just because I know those two can work really well, but having Austin into the mix, I mean, it would have been different. But anyways, now lastly, we're in the 2002 now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip it to the main event first, because the King of the Ring involved it. Basically, the 2002 main event was Undertaker versus Triple H for the Undisputed Championship. After it was made first in end of 2001, Chris Jericho was the first one to get it.
Yeah.
But the reason why I say it first was for the 2002 King of the Ring, Brock Lesnar beat Rob Van Dam for a chance at the undisputed belt at SummerSlam.
And actually, I might actually want to go ahead and actually say this, but originally when Triple H was introduced as undisputed champion and brought the undisputed title belt, it wasn't real. It was actually supposed to be Triple H and Undertaker at Backlash, but for some odd reason, they decided to change it and make it Triple H versus Hogan, and Hogan won the belt. And then Judgment Day was Hogan versus Undertaker, and Undertaker won it. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Triple H and Undertaker still had some dealings. So, and I believe Undertaker retained this one because it was after that match. It was Undertaker, The Rock, and Kurt Angle in a triple threat match at Vengeance 2002 before SummerSlam, and The Rock actually won the WWE title. So it was The Rock versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. So well, that was pretty good that we learned so much about the King of the Ring winners from 93 to 2002 and the main events.
That ends my notes.
That ends your notes. Alright. So, anyways. So, now we go from the King of the Ring to the, well, the man of the great hours, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Now, there's been so many stories about him. Gramps, I'm pretty much sure you might have heard some of these stories, but I don't know if you have a story of your own about Dusty Rhodes that you might have heard.
Not really off the top of my head. I know he used to wrestle at the place called the Armory here in Tampa. And my mom tells me stories of them going down there and seeing people like Dusty Rhodes and the Four Horsemen wrestle down there back in the day.
Yeah, there you go. And of course, Dusty Rhodes and the Four Horsemen, always the rivals in the mall, ain't they? No, there was a story that I actually heard about Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes was doing the what was it? Jim Cornette actually tells the best stories about Dusty Rhodes. All my stories come from Jim Cornette, so forgive me if I do that. But Jim Cornette tells the story that he had a guy who was his bodyguard called Bubba, and he actually turns out later to be the Big Boss Man. All right. So the story was that Big Boss Man, who was known as Bubba, gotten a new move called the Bubba Spike, which was going for a power bomb, but kind of like a spine buster move. Well, what ended up happening? He had a match with what the fuck was his name? But I can't forget the wrestler's name. But one of the boards in the ring broke and knocked the guy out. And Dusty, and Bubba felt bad, but Dusty got mad and got angry at Bubba, saying, "Don't do shit you don't know how to do." And the other story was like a one time that this one guy, he had like 2 big bodyguards, and he was like 5'10", like 195 pounds or something, and he wanted to call White Lightning, Blue Lightning or something like that. But he had a match with the Midnight Express one time, and Midnight beated him up and won the match, and then he tried to make a comeback. He goes backstage, and Dusty Rhodes goes down to him. Now he's pointing the finger down at his chest, and he's shorter than Dusty Rhodes, and he goes, "You want to make a comeback on somebody, motherfucker? You make a comeback on me. Get the fuck out of my building." And they never changed in the locker room. They just got their stuff and went into the car and changed. But one of the best ones was around, I think it was around the 80s. They were on Jim Crockett's plane, and the plane was named Stardust after Dusty Rhodes, because Dusty Rhodes had a gimmick called Stardust. And he was, Jim Cornette was sitting in front of Dusty, and Dusty uttered the famous line, "Boys, by next year, we're gonna make major motion pictures and sitcoms." They actually ended up making sitcoms, but they ended up making sitcoms, but they never got the motion picture. I mean, can you just imagine actually just being there in the room with Dusty and just hearing that line, the way he says it, it will just be, like, make you laugh a little bit. But anyways, when we go from Dusty Rhodes now to Bret Hart, now we go into how WCW should have booked Bret Hart. Now this one's one of the most incredible injustices in the history of wrestling, pretty much in the whole time. So for the fans who don't know, the 1997 Survivor Series, of course, we all know, Bret Hart got screwed out of the WWE title. And I'm not going to get too much into detail, but after leaving WWE, after a 60-day no compete clause, he did come back, came to WCW. He wrestled against Ric Flair at Sold Out, and then he had a waging war with the NWO, because the NWO was like doing its own thing, like trying to take over WCW. and then joined the NWO as like a lackey, but not an official member. He did end up winning like the United States title at I don't know, 4 times, and he ended up having a feud with Steen. He ended up having a feud with Will Sasso from Mad TV, I think it was. Then when he finally, like, he left, but then came back after like about 8 months, because it was gonna come back 4 months before, but unfortunately Owen died, and then took an extra 4 off, so he was out for 8 months. And then had matches with Benoit. Then he had a match with Goldberg where he had that famous super kick that concussed him, and then we basically had a So the reason why I say WCW didn't book him right was because you took a character from one of the biggest one of your rival promotions, and you basically are just not taking the opportunity to use him right. Like, here's what I'm saying. Like, here's how I would have done it, and I'll just go ahead and Gramps, I'll probably see if you want to put your input on it. How I would have booked Bret Hart in WCW was simply, when Bret Hart gets in, the first thing he does is like cut a promo, and Jim Cornette actually does it better than I would, and I would say I'll think the same thing, because great minds think alike. Bret Hart would come out and say, WWE had to screw me to get rid of me and get rid of me from holding the championship that I owned. So for that, I'm gonna go roughshod over WCW, and I'm gonna be the top dog until like you get out Hollywood Hulk Hogan and saying, no brother, there's only gonna be one major dog in this business, and that's gonna be me, and I'll be the champion forever. Well, then of course you gotta have to deal with the NWO. So Bret Hart deals with the NWO until you get into the WCW pay-per-view. I'll just say Sold Out, for example, and have Bret Hart versus Hulk Hogan. And then, like, during maybe one of the video packages, put, you know what, this is years coming. I knew you were scared of me to drop the title when you were in the rival company. So, for that, I'm just gonna make you tap out and make you humble and whatever. And Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan had a match. Bret Hart made Hulk Hogan tap out and became world champion. And I think him becoming world champion would have made it more interesting on the part of, it would have built ratings for WCW, but WCW was going to be a sinking ship anyway, so
yeah. Didn't they get bought out by WWF in '96?
No, they got bought out in 2001.
It was ECW who got bought out in 1996.
Okay.
No, ECW got bought out in the same year.
Funny, because the thing I watched, it said ECW got bought out in 1996.
No,
he got relaunched in 2001.
No. Actually, here was the thing, and I'll just put it this, and forgive me if I do it right. ECW was actually still around at the time, around 96, but they were doing their own thing and whatever. But ECW didn't close down its doors till 2001, after Paul Heyman actually made, like, the deals where, oh, hey, I dare you to take us off television, and they actually did. And they couldn't do any TV deals, they couldn't do any money, so they had to close their doors, and Finn's actually bought ECW around the same time as WCW.
I swore something happened in '96.
96. No, 96 was, I think you were thinking of something else in 96, but...
No, because I was watching WhatCulture.com on YouTube, and ECW basically said that basically ECW itself, they still had TV shows and stuff, but it was bought out in 1996 to be used part of what WWE wanted to do with them.
No, oh, no. I think I see where you were getting confused there, John. Actually, WWE and ECW were supposed to be doing like a partnership deal where ECW was doing their first pay-per-view. And what would have happened was that we're going to have some ECW guys come down to Raw and do their little thing to promote ECW's first pay-per-view. That's what you're thinking of, because ECW didn't have their... Actually, ECW had their first pay-per-view in 96, where it would not have happened, where they had to cut down on some of the violence and also cut down on some of the time on it, because the timing was going to be like way too long for like a pay-per-view. So basically, what you were thinking of 96, you were thinking that it was just a deal between WWE and ECW doing doing like a little like an invasion type angle thing, but that was like pre-invasion, before the actual invasion in 2001. But 2000.
Give me just a second. I'm just gonna double check.
I mean, you can check, but I remember it very well. It was that. It was just a deal between ECW and WWE to doing their thing where ECW had to promote their pay-per-view. But anyways, while John's looking at that, Gramps, how would you book Bret Hart in WCW if you were like the main boss, like you were the booker?
Like, how would I use them?
Like, yeah, how would you use them? Like would you put him in the main event spot like right away because you're gonna put him, because you got him like right after one of the hottest controversies in wrestling history, and you think it would have been wise?
I would use them. I would use them, of course, but I wouldn't immediately give him a title shot in my franchise right off the bat and skip over everyone who's been there and put in the work for years. I'd make him earn it.
Like, you would if
even if he was a...
Like, if he even if he was the biggest star, he still had to work his ass off.
He's the biggest star in WWF, but he's a new face to WCW or ECW or whatever organization you run.
Right.
He may have name recognition everywhere, but treat him like he's a new hire, like it's a more famous new hire. It's like fucking the Bucks, for example. Jameis Winston was like the famous #1 quarterback in all of college football, and the Bucks took him in. He's not a football player for them. They don't care. You earn your respect on that field, not this.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm seeing what you're saying there, Gramps. You might be right, actually. Now, anyways, John, it sounds like you were finishing with your lookup.
Yeah, so it was 2001 where they were bought out.
Ah, see. Yeah, I thought so, because I knew 96 was the... Yeah, 96 was the deal with ECW and WWE doing their, like, a partnership type thing where ECW was trying to promote their pay-per-view and WWE was helping them. So, anyways. But no, I would agree with you on that one. Gramps, I wouldn't actually go ahead and, like, put him at the top spot right away, but I would have gone ahead and just say, look, you gotta work hard like the others, and then if you earn it, you earn it. But then again, it wouldn't make the kerfuffle of the WCW title in around 2000. But that's besides the point. John, actually, while you're here, I know you will probably not put too much into it. How would you book Bret Hart in WCW? Would you be agreeing with Gramps the way he would have done it?
Maybe I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention the whole time.
Okay, well, here I'll. Yeah. Well, what Gramps was saying, John, was Gramps wouldn't be using Bret Hart right away, even though he is like the biggest name on like from a rival company, but he has to work. He wouldn't put him in like in the world title scene like right away. He would probably make him work hard, but those who have been there for years that like put them in line first before putting Bret Hart there.
I can't really say anything since I didn't really watch wrestling at that point in time, but
Right. Okay. Well, we can just... Well, since we got the WCW thing out of the way, and I know Gramps is sounding like he's getting a little tired there.
Oh, I gotta be up in 6 hours, so...
Oh, lovely.
It's the kids' school run in the morning. So.
Oh, lovely. Well, let's finish up this last podcast here with what if Ric Flair came to WWE during the Attitude Era? Now, there was a story for years, and Jim Cornette actually said it here. In 1998, Eric Bischoff and Ric Flair had an out where they, where Ric Flair was getting pissed off with Eric Bischoff with the way Eric Bischoff was treating WCW and whatever. And Ric Flair went, well, I'm going to have a fucking enough, and I'm probably thinking about going to WWE. So Ric Flair called up Jim Cornette, and Jim said he had the idea that he would have, they were actually having a pay-per-view at Greensboro, North Carolina, for a WWE pay-per-view. And since Vince couldn't talk to Rick because of a contract issue, Jim would. Jim would talk to Ric Flair about it, and the story that he would do was that, you know, what if Ric Flair and his son Reed Flair would sit in the front row at the pay-per-view, and the interviewers would go up and say, hey, we are going to recognize a champion by the name of Flair. He's been doing recent winnings of championships right now in amateur wrestling. We're going to talk to Reed. And then Ric Flair will be sitting right next to him, and he'll be basically like a push forward to Ric Flair being a part of the the World Wrestling Federation. I'm sorry, I can't say WWF for some odd reason. Like, I have a tongue twister.
You said it already twice.
Shut up! I had a tongue twister. Okay, quiet.
Say tongue twister 3 times real fast.
No, thank you. I'm good. Anyways, but this would actually be interesting because, Gramps, I'll ask you, since I know you've been a fan of Ric Flair, and so is, and John, I'll ask you too. If Ric Flair did actually go through to being in the Attitude Era, like in '98, do you think he would have done best to face off against Austin as part of Vince McMahon's corporation at that time? Or do you think he would have done his own thing somewhere, done his own thing?
Probably would have done his own thing, knowing him.
Yeah, he's very independent. A strong-willed old bastard. Kind of like me. Now, I wouldn't have been surprised if he may have associated with WWF at the time for cash and this extra boost to his name recognition. But I don't think he would have permanently tied himself down to just to WWF. He probably would have been a floater between different groups.
Right.
Keep his options open.
Right. But a woman actually, how what I would have done said it was like it would have been perfect if like I think everybody during the Attitude Era would have had a good opportunity to actually have a match with Flair, like Rock and Austin and well, I know Undertaker had a match with Flair at a couple times, but then you think about it. Actually, if you think Triple H and Ric Flair on what they were going to be like, maybe around 2000, 2003. Just think about it. They could have began. Actually, they could have began Evolution those years ago, probably. But just the two of them for right now, and then later down the road, and it will be Randy Orton and Batista joining. You may never know.
Hell, fucking Flair could have fought Helmsley before he was Triple H, like in 96, 97.
Oh yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. Yeah,
Before
you
he
have a
took the
point.
Triple H name, when he was just Helmsley, whatever
Yeah.
his fucking the full name was.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley. You fuck.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I mean, those are pretty good responses, really, in my opinion. I think. And with that, I think the podcast is closed. Does anyone have any last wordings before we close off?
No, I'm going to bed.
Good night, Gramps.
Good night, Gramps.
Night-night.
And good night, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We'll talk to you on the
Remember to
next one.
spade and
Gramps! Goodbye, everybody.